So we asked our viewers who live in Albuquerque to send us a question for you. This next question comes from Albuquerque resident Matthew Mador, and he has a question about Albuquerque's history. There are a lot of differing opinions on the Don Juan de Oñate statue that protesters tore down in Old Town last year, or attempted to tear down. Matthew is someone who wants to see it restored. So here's his question.
Hi, my name is Matthew Ador, and this here is where the Juan de Oñate statue once proudly stood. I am deeply ashamed that there were people who were trying to deface it and attempted to take it down. So my question to the candidates is, will you be bringing back that very same statue, and what steps are you going to take to make sure it is well protected?
So we would like for you to answer Matthew's question. Would you bring back the controversial Don Juan de Oñate statue? But we'd also like you to tell us how you bridge two very important heritages in our community: Albuquerque Spanish influence and the indigenous people who lived here when they arrived. So we begin with Mr. Keller.
Well, thank you for that question, and I think it's important to remember why that statue was taken down right away. It was taken down because someone was shot. And it was a very high likelihood that there would be continued violence. And so we took it down temporarily so that we actually could go through the kind of dialogue and discussion that's behind your question, the kind of discussion that bridges our Native American community and our Hispanic community. And so that's why our city led the Race and Healing conversation. It took 9 months. There were thousands of people involved. And it was about lots of things around our history, whether it's around colonization or indigenous rights or around Hispanic heritage and pride. And so for us now, we made recommendations to the City Council. They're going to decide on what happens to this by their own ordinance, by their own choice. And we believe that there should be a respectful way to have the statue on display for the public, but it should be secure, and it should probably be in some type of museum setting so that folks can choose whether or not they want to see it. And the outside part should stay probably the way it is, with proper contextualization that tells each side of that historical story, because that's what we have to really respect, is the Native American side of the story and the Hispanic side of the story. And then we have to celebrate both parts of that culture. And doing that means telling each other's story and also listening to each other's story.
Thank you. Mr. Aragon, you may now answer the question.
Our mayor did not answer the question. He answered the question to leave it to the City Council. I will restore it, Matthew. I appreciate the question. I think it's a good one. And the mayor, I'm almost offended by what the mayor said, because someone was shot. There's been nearly 100 homicides. Are we going to start removing everything every single time someone was shot? The mayor took a walk down with Black Lives Matter directly from Upper UNM and caused $1 million worth of damage downtown and created that. He doesn't have any respect for any of the public sphere. Don Juan de Oñate is an important public figure. I am 26% indigenous. I am 66% Hispanic. And I can tell you, both sides of those are bridged every day, whether I'm eating a sopapilla with honey or whether I'm interacting with people in the community. 44% of our homeless population is indigenous, is Native American. And I've got to tell you, they're not running around talking about how much Don Juan de Oñate statue is offending them. It is part of our cultural heritage, and we are losing it, whether it's the obelisk in Santa Fe, the Juan de Vargas up in Santa Fe as well. This is something that is coming from the progressive left, and Mayor Keller is part of that very progressive left, which is all about having an agenda on top of culture. We've got to put culture back on top of agenda. That's what needs to lead our politics. We're all one. We were doing just fine for about 320 years until the Fab Five and the progressive agenda hit Washington, D.C., and Mayor Keller's part of that.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez, you may now answer the question.
Yes, we should restore it. It's our constitutional duties to protect the rights, property, and lives. That property belongs to the citizens of Albuquerque, and it needs to be restored. It doesn't. You never take a position in government as an elected official. We're the neutral body of government and law enforcement. That property should have been protected, and the mayor should have never allowed his activist protesters to come here and criminalize and cause that shooting. He had the Albuquerque Police Department stand down, and that's well documented, and he's being sued for it right now. And I believe at the end of it, he will be found guilty of his ineptness and his misunderstanding of the law. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Aragon, we will go ahead and let you have a rebuttal opportunity. You'll have 30 seconds, sir.
I would just like to take the rest of Sheriff Gonzalez's time. He misspoke when he said that it was Antifa who fired the shot. It actually happened to be somebody independent of the Civil Guard and independent of Antifa. We need to look more into this, what exactly happened. I think there needs to be a full-blown investigation into what happened on that day, who the players were, and who they're involved in. There's a lot, what they're involved in. And I think as mayor, that's one of my first jobs day one, is to fully investigate what happened on that day, call all players to the floor, including the Civil Guard as well as Antifa, and understand the way things went down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aragon.